While the woman was on the phone, the moment she adjusted the hourglass on the table in front of her, her phone instantly lost signal. At first, she simply assumed it was a problem with reception in that particular room, but even after walking a good distance away, her phone still showed no signal whatsoever. On top of that, the people around her were moving about hurriedly, completely different from the way things looked when she entered the library earlier. A flood of suspicions began to rise in Lucy's mind. To figure out what was going on, Lucy asked a nearby man who was reading through some documents.
Well, what is going on? Why is everybody in costume?
You're a funny girl. We're making a major motion picture. His merry wife.
After hearing his response and getting a good look at his face, Lucy froze. The film he mentioned was one she knew like the back of her hand. But that movie was released in 1947. Looking at the man speaking to her, Lucy suddenly realized she might have traveled through time. A film having the same title could happen, sure, but a character from a classic movie coming back from the dead? Impossible. That's right. The man standing before her was the star of His Merry Wife, an actor named Jack, who was rumored to have passed away back in 1948. While Jack was busy speaking to his assistant, Lucy quickly snatched up the filming schedule and rushed back into the library. Clearly, Lucy was still struggling to accept the fact that she had traveled back to 1947. Deep down, she kept trying to convince herself that maybe the jet lag was messing with her head and causing hallucinations. Magically, after she counted to 3 in her mind, she found herself back in the 21st century. When she saw the familiar tour guide, Winston, Lucy couldn't hold back her confusion, but Winston just stared at her blankly, not understanding a single word she was saying. Without another word, Lucy opened the door to the library. The crowd she had seen earlier had completely vanished. In their place were a series of props and memorial plaques. It wasn't until this moment that Lucy became certain she had truly traveled back to 1947. Realizing this, Lucy immediately called her boss and asked him to book her a flight home. As it turns out, the reason Lucy had come to this massive royal palace was because, as a screenwriter, she'd recently hit a creative block. To help her get inspired, her boss Michael suggested she study the classic Christmas film His Merry Wife and sent her to the original filming location, the palace. Everything was normal at first, with Winston giving her a detailed tour. But everything changed when Michael called, and Lucy went into the library to answer. While there, she absent-mindedly straightened the hourglass. After Lucy told Michael what had happened, he clearly didn't believe her. He thought she was just making an excuse to end the trip early and refused her request to return to the company. But after going through such a bizarre experience, Lucy no longer had the heart to continue following the tour group. So, when no one was paying attention, she quietly slipped back into the library. She began to recall everything that happened earlier and guessed that the hourglass might be the key. After a moment's hesitation, she flipped the hourglass over again, and then cautiously stepped outside the library door. Just as she suspected, the props and memorials had vanished. In the empty corridor, only a few people in period costumes remained. Even though she had mentally prepared herself, she still couldn't help but gasp. Before she could fully gather her thoughts, a security guard and a woman who seemed like a staff member came over.
Sandra, right? Candy cane girl?
Not wanting to reveal she was a time traveler, Lucy quickly nodded and claimed to be the person they were looking for. Soon, Lucy was brought to the makeup room. Through some small talk along the way, she was able to piece together what was going on. She had been mistaken for one of the film's extras. Since she couldn't get away for the moment, Lucy was more than happy to embrace the chance to experience this new line of work. But unexpectedly, the film's star, Jack, noticed her.
Hi.
I'm Jack Houston. You got a name?
Sandra.
Before he could finish inviting her to dinner that night, Lucy caught a glimpse of the time on his watch. After confirming that the patrolling security guard had gone off to rest, Lucy ignored Jack's confused expression and hurried toward the library. She didn't know what would happen if the sand in the hourglass ran out. She had to get back before it did. Jack, unaware of what was really going on, blocked her path and asked her to have dinner with him. Lucy began talking about the ending of the film, how things turned out between him and the female lead.
It's not?
No, but what made you say that? Because I've been thinking of something along those lines, and nobody will go for it.
I am Sandra!
Just as the real extra arrived, Lucy turned and ran. She reached the library just as the last grain of sand fell through the hourglass. What followed was an exclamation of surprise.
No, I can't.
You weren't there. And you were there.
Margaret, Lucy's friend, had come looking for her after noticing she'd mysteriously vanished from the group. Based on the time Margaret spent searching, Lucy estimated that her trip through time lasted about 1 hour. Before she could explain everything to Margaret, Winston entered the library and apologized, saying the palace was about to close for the day. Later, back at their lodgings, Margaret didn't press for answers, and Lucy was happy not to have to explain herself. That night, Lucy couldn't sleep. Her mind was filled with what Jack had said earlier that day. He didn't appear in the final scene of the film at all. But Lucy knew that movie. Everyone did. There was no way she was mistaken. After rewatching the film, she was absolutely certain. Jack did appear in the final scene. As a screenwriter, Lucy couldn't let this go. What really happened back then? Why was Jack's version of the ending different from the one the world had seen? Determined to find out, Lucy glanced at the coat on the chair. A bold idea formed in her mind. She would return to 1947. But first, she needed someone to keep watch at the library. Naturally, Margaret, who had come with her, was the perfect choice. After explaining everything in detail, they used the excuse of filming a scene to slip away from Winston's view and made their way back to the library.
Good luck. And say hi to Jack for me.
As the hourglass was flipped over, the lighting shifted from white to a dim yellow. Her friend, who had been standing right beside her, suddenly vanished. Lucy had once again returned to the past. Though she tried her best to avoid anyone who might have seen her before, she was still spotted by Jack as he was about to get on the elevator. After arriving at the makeup room, Lucy began glancing around, and finally, her gaze locked onto a script left on an empty chair. Noticing the security guard who had seen her last time was right behind them, Jack quickly pulled Lucy aside to a secluded corner. Since her identity had already been exposed the last time she left, Lucy wasn't surprised that Jack asked her about it. She casually claimed to be someone from the studio, and the daughter of the film's biggest investor. Her words, however, happened to be overheard by the male lead of the movie, Claude. It was only after reading the script that Lucy realized the reason Jack didn't appear in the film's ending was because, for unknown reasons, the lead and supporting roles had swapped scripts. Even though she was curious about why that happened, her current situation didn't allow her the luxury to investigate. Although she had managed to lie her way out of trouble for the moment, Lucy knew the lie couldn't hold up for long and would eventually be exposed. She quickly said goodbye to Jack and stepped outside to pretend she was taking a walk, planning to find another chance to return to the library and leave. But while she was walking and reading the script, someone called out to her from behind. After introducing himself, Claude eagerly explained why he had come to find her. It turned out the original cast would be filming 3 more movies after this one, and the biggest investor behind those projects was still supposedly Lucy's father. Because he didn't want to continue working with the current female lead, Claude wanted Lucy to speak to the director, who was also the writer of the film. He then pulled a note from his pocket, listing all of the actress's bad habits and flaws. Lucy took the note, but she had no intention of helping him. With a head full of questions, Lucy returned to the hourglass in the library, trying to speed up the flow of sand by tapping on it.
Hiya, there you are.
No, 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 no!
It's okay. I'll take the blame. I'll say it's my fault. It's okay.
Meanwhile, in the present, Margaret, who was keeping watch, noticed something strange. The sand inside the hourglass had mysteriously frozen. Lucy suspected that if the hourglass broke, she might be trapped in this world forever. She hurriedly went to the props team, begging them for help.
Any promises?
When she regained consciousness, the first faces she saw were Jack, Claude, and the film's lead actress, Ava. They asked about her condition with genuine concern. Still a bit dazed, Lucy said things they couldn't understand. Fortunately, Lucy quickly came to her senses and gave a response that eased their suspicions about her having a concussion. Lucy rushed off to find the props team member, but by now, half an hour had already passed since she fainted. The staff had long since left. She learned that if she wanted to see Gus again, she would have to wait until the next evening. Luckily, Gus had promised to fix the hourglass. All Lucy could do now was wait. At a restaurant near the castle, Jack found Lucy again.
Is this seat taken?
I'm expecting someone.
He sat next to her and picked up the menu, asking what dishes the restaurant was known for. When Lucy didn't respond, he launched into a long-winded commentary about every item on the menu. Finally annoyed enough, Lucy asked him to sit across from her. It was clear from Jack's playful flirting that he liked Lucy and was trying to get closer to her. The props team wouldn't be back until the next day, and in the meantime, Lucy decided to avoid returning to the palace as much as possible, in case someone recognized the investor's daughter and exposed her fake identity, so she didn't turn Jack down outright. At first, she just thought having someone to talk to was better than being alone. But Lucy had no idea that from the moment she truly interacted with Jack, the wheels of fate had already begun to turn. Everything was slowly unfolding exactly as it had in her original world's history, including the script switch between the main and supporting roles, and the hidden truth behind Jack's death in 1948. During their first 2 meetings, Lucy had been too distracted to truly understand Jack. But now, after just a short time together, she realized the rumors about Jack's personality were all wrong. He wasn't cold or serious at all. On the contrary, he was witty, charismatic, gentlemanly, and driven. These were the words Lucy silently used to describe him. As their conversation deepened, they stopped talking about surface-level things. They began sharing secrets they had long buried in their hearts. Of course, Lucy didn't reveal her time-traveling experience. She knew even if she did, Jack would never believe it. As emotions rose and the mood grew heavier, Jack suddenly changed the subject.
Who are you, really?
What do you mean?
It turned out he had seen the investor's daughter once at a party, and had known from the beginning that Lucy was lying. He simply didn't expose her because he found it amusing. Sensing Lucy's embarrassment, he didn't press the issue further. They spent the rest of the evening browsing the flower shop nearby and strolling through the hotel garden. Slowly, Lucy began to feel something for Jack. Even though they had only spent half a day together, his charm had already started to affect her. Realizing this shift in her heart, she knew there could never be a future between them. To keep her feelings from growing any stronger, Lucy said she was heading back to the hotel to get some rest. But there wasn't a room for her at all. Jack offered to walk her back. Lucy couldn't bring herself to reject him, so she led him in circles until they reached room 359. She had randomly picked a room from the dozens in the hallway, only to discover it was Jack's room. After some awkward stammering, she claimed she had simply remembered the room number wrong. After finally getting away from Jack, Lucy headed to the front desk. She made up a story about a fire in the elevator to distract the staff, then casually grabbed a room key. In the 1940s, checking into a hotel didn't require online registration, so secretly spending a night in an empty room was unlikely to raise any suspicion. Once she confirmed which room she'd taken, Lucy headed alone to the hotel bar. She just wanted to have a drink and relax. But to her surprise, that's where she encountered her idol, the writer and director of His Merry Wife. Since he wasn't yet a household name at the time, it wasn't strange for him to be out in public like this. Lucy approached him and struck up a conversation, and he was more than happy to chat. Remembering that Claude had recently asked her to help get the lead actress replaced, Lucy brought up the topic out of concern that the film's legacy might be altered. She wanted to hear the director's thoughts, but the director looked puzzled. Clearly, Claude hadn't spoken to him at all. Lucy then pulled out the note Claude had given her and proceeded to refute the accusations listed one by one. Her original intention was to warn the director ahead of time and speak up for the lead actress. But after reading the note and learning its origin, the director began to question the character of the actor he'd chosen. And because of that moment, Jack eventually became the lead actor in the film. Of course, that was later, but this marked the moment where history quietly shifted course. Unbeknownst to Lucy and the director, Ava, the film's female lead, was standing nearby watching them. Because of the distance, Ava couldn't hear what they were saying, but she vaguely heard her own name mentioned. After they left, Ava approached the counter and found the note that had been left behind. A misunderstanding was born. Ava believed Lucy had badmouthed her to the director. Seeing their smiles during the conversation, Ava assumed the director had agreed to drop her from the cast. Wanting to preserve her dignity, Ava left the production quietly before the director could confront her. When Lucy found out, she felt a pang of guilt. To avoid creating too much of a deviation from the original history, she knew the only thing she could do now was find Ava and bring her back. As she rounded a corner on foot, Jack, who had gone ahead to search, suddenly appeared. With only 10 minutes left before the train departed, they rushed to the station. When Ava saw Lucy, her expression was noticeably cold. At first, Ava tried to save face by claiming she left because she couldn't get used to the crew's atmosphere. Not knowing the real reason she left, Lucy gently tried to persuade her to stay. Confused by Lucy's sudden concern, Ava finally gave in to her curiosity and asked why she was now trying to stop her. When Lucy learned Ava had left because of the note, she breathed a sigh of relief and explained the full story. With the misunderstanding resolved, Ava agreed to return. Soon after, Lucy received word from the director. Because of the male lead's lack of integrity, Jack would now replace him as the main character. All previous footage would be reshot, with plans to wrap within a week. Jack was officially the lead. Ava got to stay, and now all Lucy had to do was wait for the hourglass to be returned so she could go home. At the ball, Ava thoughtfully went elsewhere to give Lucy and Jack some time alone. The atmosphere was warm and inviting. Jack introduced her to many local customs and traditions. As the dancing began, the colorful decorations around them glowed under the soft lighting. The warmth of each other's breath, the closeness of their bodies, it all created an air of intimacy. Their lips met in quiet harmony. After that brief moment of sweetness, Jack gave Lucy his watch as a gift. Seeing the ticking hands instantly pulled Lucy out of the dreamlike moment.
Oh, gosh. Sorry. What am I doing? This isn't real. None of this is real.
Lucy.
No,
The moving hands reminded her of the broken hourglass. She knew she had to return to the 21st century. There could never be a future for her and Jack. Panicked, she ran off and ran straight into Gus, who had just finished fixing the hourglass. Just as Lucy was about to head toward it, the film's real investor arrived, furious after hearing someone had been impersonating his daughter. At that point, going to the front door to retrieve the hourglass wasn't an option. Acting on instinct, Lucy dashed toward the library. Jack caught up to her and asked what was going on. Why was she avoiding him? Before she could answer, the security guards showed up. Lucy and Jack ran into the library and quickly locked the door behind them.
I'm from the future.
Huh? What's the gag?
I'm from 80 years in the future, Jack. I turned an hourglass, the one that I broke, and it brought me here, and now I'm stuck.
Lucy explained that if the guards caught her, she might never get another chance to reach the hourglass and return home. Even though everything she said sounded unbelievable, Jack still chose to trust her. That kind of trust, almost blind faith, is what true love looks like. With Jack's guidance, Lucy slipped out through a back door of the library and made her way to the prop van. Jack followed close behind. Right there in front of him, Lucy proved she hadn't been lying. Back in the 21st century, Lucy immediately found Margaret. As Margaret bombarded her with questions, Lucy suddenly remembered Jack was destined to die in 1948. But she had no idea how to stop it. The next 2 weeks passed in grief and longing. One ordinary night, drawn by some invisible force, Lucy returned to the hourglass once again. But after hesitating for a long while, she couldn't bring herself to flip it. She looked down at the watch Jack had given her. Moments after she walked away, the hourglass began to tremble again. Something miraculous was happening. Lucy, who had forgotten her bag, was just about to head back.
We are a hard one to forget, Lucy Hargrove. Now, I tried 1,000 times to get that hourglass to bring me to you.
The newspaper said that you died.
It's a cover story that we planted, just in case of an unexplained disappearance.
The final mystery was revealed. Before Jack had traveled through time, he had already figured out how to explain his sudden disappearance, which meant he was choosing to stay. He would remain in this world hand in hand with Lucy, living out their lives together in the bustling 21st century.
We were